Singapore is a small island developing state or SEADS with no natural resources. We are a highly urbanized and densely populated city. In many ways, our circumstances are unique. But the challenges we face are common to many other SEADS. Singapore pursued sustainable development even before the term became fashionable. Since independence, we have tried balancing environmental considerations with economic development, believing that the two are complementary and not contradictory. With a focus on improving our people's lives, the government has built a clean and green Singapore, where our people can lead healthy and fulfilling lives with good jobs, good education, and adequate shelter for everyone. Our first Prime Minister, Mr. Lee Kuan Yew, who you can see in the slide now, is the architect of Singapore's transformation. He focused on creating a green city, a garden city, planted the first tree in 1963, which kick-started the annual tree planting campaign. Today, we are building on the legacy of pioneer leaders and transforming Singapore into a city in a garden. Singapore's approach to sustainable development has three elements. First, balancing economic development with environmental protection and social inclusion. Second, pursuing a long-term integrated approach to policy planning and implementation. And third, building collaborative multi-stakeholder partnerships to support formulation and implementation. For Singapore, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, 2030 Agenda, is a framework to benchmark government's policies. The 17 Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, are integrated into the government's long-term agenda. This was articulated by our President Halimah Yacob at the opening of our Parliament in May this year. We had used the voluntary national review of VNR process to increase public engagement and awareness of the 2030 Agenda and mobilize more than 30 ministries and agencies to prepare the VNR. Let me now touch on Singapore's progress implementing in six SDGs in focus. First, on SDG 6. The World Resource Institute ranks Singapore as the country most at risk of water stress by 2040. To ensure water resilience and sustainability, we have developed a robust and diversified water supply system called our 4 national TAP: imported water, water from local catchments, desalinated water, and recycled wastewater, which we call new water. Over the years, we have enhanced our water sustainability by closing the water loop and collaborating with the private sector to develop and deploy new technologies. Our national water recycling system collects and treats every drop of water and transforms it into new water, in this particular case, wastewater. Singapore's ultra-clean, high-grade reclaimed water, we have built a wastewater superhighway, the deep tunnel sewage system, to collect and transport wastewater. The current tunnel, 48 kilometers long and linked to 60 kilometers of sewers, will be extended by 100 kilometers by 2025 to transport and turn more wastewater into new water for industry use, as well as domestic consumption. By reusing water endlessly, new water cushions our water supply against dry weather, enhancing Singapore's water sustainability and resilience to shifting weather patterns. Former UN Secretary General, Mr. Ban Ki-moon, called it the elixir of life when he visited Singapore in 2012. Besides providing clean drinking water, we want to bring Singaporeans close to the water so they become stewards of water and environment through the Active, Beautiful, and Clean program, or ABC Waters. We are transforming Singapore's drains, canals, and reservoirs into streams, rivers, and lakes. This enriches our biodiversity and enhances our urban landscape with spaces for recreational and social bonding. In the slide, you see our Bishan Ang Mo Kio Park project, which used to be an old concrete canal. It is now a place where families gather and children play. We'll implement 100 ABC waters by 2030. Now I move on to SDG 7. As a member of the Alliance of Small Island States, or AOCs, Singapore has been a strong advocate of ambitious action against climate change. We pledged at the Paris Conference to reduce our emission intensity by 36% from 2005 level by 2030, and to stabilize our emissions with the aim of peaking around the same time. We'll be one of the first Asian nations to implement a national carbon tax across all sectors without any exemption from 2019. This will incentivize emissions reduction and encourage companies to transit to a low-carbon future. Under our Climate Action Plan, we will increase energy efficiency and reduce the carbon footprint across all economic sectors. Today, 95% of our electricity is generated from natural gas, the cleanest form of fossil fuel. Our goal is to increase solar photovoltaic deployment to 350 megawatts by 2020 and to 1 gigawatt peak beyond 2020. We have installed solar panels on the rooftops of public housing blocks and launched the world's largest floating PV testbed. We are investing in breakthrough technologies, such as developing solar panels or integration into the building facade. Let me now touch on SDG 12. As a resource-constrained nation, Singapore's vision is to close the waste loop, just as we have closed the water loop. By practicing the 3 Rs, reduce, reuse, and recycle, we aim to minimize waste and engage in urban mining by extracting valuable resources from waste. We are tackling food waste as a priority. We've installed food waste digesters in schools, hotels, shopping malls, and food centers to treat food waste on-site, turning them into fertilizer and non-potable water. We are piloting district-level food waste treatment, where food waste is collected and co-digested with used water, sludge, to produce biogas. Sustainable consumption and production require all stakeholders to participate. To develop a circular economy, Singapore will introduce the Extended Producer Responsibility, or EPR. Businesses will be responsible for their products at the end of life, ensuring the proper recycling and disposal. We'll start by implementing the EPR framework for e-waste and consider extending it to other waste streams, such as packaging. A first in the world, Tuas NEXUS will be the hallmark of our efforts to close the resource loops. Going beyond closing the waste and water loops, it will undertake wastewater treatment and solid waste management, all on one site, to harness synergies from the waste, energy, water nexus. It will use the latest technology in combustion to maximize energy production. More than 200,000 tons of CO2 emissions can be avoided annually, the equivalent of taking 41,000 cars off the roads. SEMAKAU is Singapore's last landfill. Even on a landfill, we are serious about nature and biodiversity. The thriving flora and fauna, such as this mangrove swarm, shows the ecosystem has been well protected. Marine life and migratory birds are also making this island their home. New Scientist magazine dubbed the landfill garbage of Eden. Moving on to SDG 11, to achieve a highly livable, inclusive, and sustainable urban environment, Integrated long-term planning is key. We are piloting enterprise districts, which bring together high-value industries with institutes of learning and a residential community. We have a 5-year master plan to integrate persons with disabilities into the workforce and society. Punggol New Town is home to Singapore's first eco-precinct for green building technologies, and the Punggol Digital District is built purposefully for the cybersecurity and digital media industries. For a multiracial and multi-religious society like Singapore, the heart of sustainable development lies in social inclusion. Hawker centers are an integral part of Singapore's daily lives and found across the island. Besides serving affordable and delicious dishes, they are places where Singaporeans, regardless of race, religion, and social background, connect through our shared love for food. Food certainly unites Singaporeans. Globally, Singapore ranks first in urban tree density. Green cover has increased to more than 40% since our tree planting campaign started in 1963. To enhance greenery in our built environment, Singapore encourages developers to integrate rooftop and vertical greenery. Besides beautifying the city, these measures cool the urban microclimate and provide refuge for biodiversity. The Singapore Botanic Gardens is the first and only tropical botanic gardens on UNESCO's World Heritage List. We've conserved primary and secondary rainforests right in the heart of the city. Scientists have made exciting discoveries, finding new species or rediscovering species thought lost. Today, Singapore has over 40,000 kinds of terrestrial and marine organisms, such as these otters, which have starred in a David Attenborough documentary about Singapore's wildlife. Finally, on SDG 17. A sustainable development in Singapore is a whole-of-nation effort based on collaborative multi-stakeholder partnerships. We declared 2018 as the year of climate action to raise awareness and encourage action across the nation. In 6 months, close to 250,000 Singaporeans, business corporations, and civil society organizations have pledged to save energy and water, practice recycling, and fight climate change. On the podium with me today are representatives from the Singapore Environment Council, Ms. Jen Teo, and Sustainable Living Lab, Mr. Veerapan Swaminathan, who play critical roles in galvanizing bottom-up action. Also present today are the youth winners, Frida, Robin, and Wei Han, of a video competition on creative ideas for sustainability, which we organized as part of a VNR, and youth are indeed our leaders and champions of sustainable development. Ladies and gentlemen, partnerships are key to sustainability. For a decade, Singapore has been hosting the World City Summit, Singapore International Water Week, and Clean Enviro Summit Singapore to share and co-create solutions for urban sustainability. The most recent edition was held last week, attracting 24,000 visitors from 110 countries. Last week, as chair of ASEAN, Singapore convened the special ASEAN Ministerial Meeting on Climate Action, and together with key partners, reaffirmed our commitment to the Paris Agreement and regional action to tackle climate change. I also announced a special climate action package to develop capacity in the region in this key area. In this spirit, Singapore has been sharing our development experience with fellow developing countries through the Singapore Cooperation Program since 1992. We have trained 120,000 officials to date. We have also hosted around 1,000 youth in the Unleash Innovation Lab to co-create solutions for the 2030 agenda. In conclusion, sustainable development means providing for the needs of the present without compromising the interests of future generations. A Chinese proverb says, one generation plants the trees, the next generation enjoys the shade. Beyond harvesting for ourselves, we must plant seeds and grow trees. We must empower our youth to take climate action to ensure our planet's sustainability and resilience. Together, let's work towards the shared goals of the 2030 Agenda. Thank you.